Joining me now is Robert Spencer of jihadwatch.org, jihadwatch.org. And Mr. Spencer, well, he has plenty to watch. That's for sure. One of the things that happened over the holiday break was a conference. The information about that was going out at a conference came to light. Here is one of the speakers at this conference. I want to play this and have Robert comment. This took place, folks, in the United States of America. I think it was Michigan. Here we go.
Gaza needs to be saved now. It saved all of us, liberated all of us. It is time for us to pay back and stop the criminals, the perpetrators, the child murderers. And we all know who they are. We all know who they are, whether they are in Israel, Tel Aviv, in Washington, in Germany, in Europe. We all know them. We all know them. They need to be locked up. They need to be taken out. They need to be neutralized to save children, to save children, to save the humanity. We are not saying this out of hate. We are saying this out of love for the children, love for life, love for humanity where every life is equal. We only hate the war criminals, the child murderers. We need to act now. Speaking up alone is not enough. It's two years old. We have been speaking up for 2 years. Now it's time to escalate and to act and to get the murderers out. Save the children. Thank you. The warmongers and the mega rich who are owning these systems, they want the whole world to be owned by these few supremacists, whether they are Jewish supremacists or Christian supremacists, or Christian evangelicals or mega rich. It is time or never. We need to mobilize. If we wait 5 years, 10 years, their system will be so strong that we, the people, cannot fight it. So we need to take the thrones of power from them. And we, the people, need to create a better world and better humanity for everyone.
All right. He said they got to go after the Jews, the Christians, the evangelicals when it comes to what they're doing. Who is this gentleman? Joining me now, of course, is Robert Spencer, as I said, of jihadwatch.org. I know you were tracking that this weekend. What are your thoughts on what you just heard?
Well, it's the same thing that we've heard so many times, Brandon. It's a statement of intent that is 100% serious and completely mainstream in Islamic tradition, that when Muslims come to a new land, they are to conquer and Islamize it. And that's what they are here for. So this guy at this conference, he's a very skillful propagandist. You got to give it to him. You got to give him credit. He knows how to couch what he is saying in terms that will appear palatable to Western non-Muslims, particularly leftists. And they'll say, well, yeah, you know, I'm against global hegemony and imperialism and and racism and things of that nature. And so I'm with this guy, Free Palestine. And he doesn't realize that the biggest, that is the leftist marks who fall for this kind of the propaganda appeal, they don't realize that the biggest imperialist force in the world today, and for the last 1,400 years of history, for that matter, is Islamic Jihad. And when this guy is talking about how the Jews and Christians want to take over the world and impose their hegemony, that's pure projection. It is only Islam that has that kind of a program. I mean, Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations, but that's not a political program. When this guy is saying we want to Islamize the world, that's a political program, because Islam does not have any idea of render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's and to God that which is God's. Islam is political as well as religious. This is a supremacist, aggressive, and violent expansionist religion, and that is what he is articulating here quite skillfully in terms of liberation from oppression.
So we've got these guys speaking here in the U.S. now, coming here, speaking like this, talking like this. And of course, they're showing their hand, as you said, more and more. Now, for those of us like yourself, myself, many of this audience who are very astute, long-term students, some of this is not new to them, but it's new to a lot of their family and their friends when they hear things like this lady here. This is a Muslim Brotherhood TV host explaining under what circumstances Christian girls can be raped. Listen to this, folks. I think it's going to be transcribed here for you.
كان دي بقى نظمه بإيه؟ إن لا يكون إلا عن طريق الحرب المشروعة بين المسلمين وبين أعدائهم. يعني لو إحنا حاربنا إسرائيل وإسرائيل دي مغتصبة للأرض بل ومعتدية على البشر وعلى العقيدة، وطبعا احنا بنتكلم عن المستحيل، يعني مستحيل ان احنا هيجي اليوم اللي نحارب فيه اسرائيل، ولو ان سورة الاسراء مبشرة بكده يعني، وليس مستحيلا على الله سبحانه وتعالى. فاصل الحرب من النساء هم ملك اليمين، بمعنى ان عشان اذلهم بيصبحوا ملكا للقائد او للجيش او للمسلم يستمتع بيهم كما يستمتع بيه.
Okay, I want to stop right there. Make sure everybody's keeping up. When you conquer, when you humiliate them, they can become your sex slave, and you can have sex with them just like he has sex with his wives, the commander, the conquerors. Okay, folks? You understanding what's going on here? Don't be shocked when they're raping the girls in your community as they're doing all over Europe. And then when the folks of Europe speak up and start waving their national flag, they literally are being arrested. We have videos of this all over the place now. Let me go to the rest of it. We'll get a response from Robert. Let's go back to it. Here we go.
زوجاتي بعض بقى المتنطعين والمتشددين واللي بيسيئوا للإسلام يقول لك أنا أجيب واحدة من شرق آسيا تكون ملك يمين وبموافقة زوجتي أخصص لها غرفة وأستمتع بيها كملك يمين.
There you go. And I will have sex with her, she says, as a slave girl.
هذا هراء وهذا ادعاء يعني لا يقول به الإسلام إطلاقا، لأن الإسلام بيقول إما على الزوجة وإما ملك اليمين. فإحنا هنا ملك اليمين المشروع هو نتيجة أسرى الحرب.
Did you see that, folks? Did you see what she said there?
آسيا زوجتي أخصص لها غرفة وأستمتع بيها كملك يمين. هذا هراء وهذا ادعاء يعني لا يقول به الإسلام إطلاقا، لأن الإسلام
Islam says that a woman is either a wife or a slave
إما على
girl.
الزوجة وإما ملك اليمين. فإحنا هنا
Legitimately owned slaves come from among prisoners from a war. What constitutes a war? Is there such a war going on in America now? Is this why they're able to treat and molest many of our own American women?
Very important question, Brandon. Very important, because most people, when if they're aware of these passages at all and they are speaking with Islamic apologists about them, the Islamic apologists will dismiss these passages saying, oh, this is only about warfare. And they don't tell you that the vast majority of the Muslim organizations in the world today consider themselves to be at war with the Western world, and particularly with the United States as well as with Israel. That this is part of the ongoing war that the Quran prescribes: fight them until persecution is no more and religion is all for Allah. Our religion is not all for Allah, so we're at war with the Muslims, even though we don't want it and we're not aware of it. And so, in the context of that war, non-Muslim women can be taken and made into sex slaves. What this woman is saying is not her opinion. It is straight from the Quran. She refers to the captives of the right hand, the milk al-yamin. That is straight from the Quran, saying that you can have sex with your wives and the captives of the right hand, who are the spoils of war. And this is something that's delineated several times in the Quran. It's an established part of Islamic law. Nobody wants to talk about that because they want to pretend that Islam is a religion like Judaism or Christianity and teaches brotherhood and magnanimity, and that therefore there's no risk whatsoever in bringing large numbers of Muslims into the West. The problem is that Muslims themselves are aware of these passages, and many of them are prepared to act upon them. This is why we see the rape gang scandal in Britain, why we see a spike in rapes in countries such as Sweden, Germany, France, where they have admitted large numbers of Muslim migrants. We will see exactly the same thing here in the United States as Muslim migration continues. It's not as if they have a different form of Islam over here and we're going to be exempt from all this.
And yet, King Charlie, he just keeps praising Islam, doesn't he, King Charles? Here he is. Listen to this, folks.
Assalamu alaikum. In this milestone anniversary year, I can only say that it is with enormous pride and admiration that I join you all here today to pay tribute to this remarkable centre as it celebrates 4 decades of unfailing work to broaden our understanding of the Islamic world and in the United Kingdom.
Do you think he's converted to Islam?
Oh, I think it's very possible. He's been photographed in Islamic garb. He has spoken effusively and positively about Islam in ways that he's never spoken about Christianity, even though he is the titular head of the Church of England. He's supposed to be a Christian religious leader. Although it's hard really to sustain the argument that the Church of England is Christian in any real sense anymore today. And so that's part of the problem here, that he is the leader of a church that's so far to the left, it's discarded its own faith. And he, meanwhile, has this uncritical and untutored admiration for Islam without realizing the political supremacist and violent, aggressive aspects of it, which are overwhelming Britain even as we speak.
Indeed, they are, to the point, again, we've seen people being arrested for simply displaying their traditional flags over there. And part of it's because they're sick and tired of the Islamists coming in there, raping, molesting, accosting, violence, jihad, and the people are being arrested for waving their own flags now.
Yeah, well, this just demonstrates that the British government right now, Brandon, is an enemy of the British people. It is a socialist, globalist government that wants to destroy Britain as a nation state. I do not say that lightly. We have to understand that we only have 2 choices here. The British government is either stupid or evil. And I don't think they're stupid, because they have been able to see, even the most stupid official in the British government has been able to see what's been happening in Britain over the last 20 years, and to allow it to continue and to persecute the British people when they try to stand up against it takes you over into the evil category. That these are people, some of the top officials in Britain. It seems clear by their actions that what they want to do is destroy the British people as a nation. They are, because they are socialist internationalists, they are bringing all these people in because they hope to dilute and destroy the native culture and the native religion of the people, and to replace them with this melange of people that will lead to natural tensions among different groups that will justify an authoritarian crackdown. And that, in the first place, will allow for them to implement their socialist internationalist plans. Also, Britain being one of the foremost nation states in the world, to destroy it will help to further their general program of destroying all the nation states and creating one world government. This is the socialist internationalist ideal, that there will just be this one massive global state that will ultimately wither away and pure communism will be in force. It's a religious dogma, really, more than a political philosophy, but the British government is working toward implementing it.
Indeed they are. Now, this brings us also to a very sad report, and that is more than 60% of America's Gen Z support Hamas over Israel, says the New York Post. I mean, this is so distressing at many levels. You want to comment?
Oh, yeah. But it demonstrates the power of propaganda, Brandon. You know that these people have been systematically, skillfully lied to. You go back to Jador, the guy who was in the first video, and how much he is playing upon the language of the oppressor and the oppressed. And the American people are told that the Israelis are racist, white colonialist settler oppressors, and the Palestinians are the indigenous people of the land, and they're suffering from oppression. And so they gain the sympathy of people who are so ignorant as to buy this, and they don't know that the Israelis are actually the indigenous people of the land, and that there not only never was a Palestinian state, but there never was even a Palestinian people until they were created for propaganda purposes in the 1960s. These kinds of things are not generally known, and so people have been primed to fall for this propaganda, and they're falling for it in large numbers.
Well, I don't know how tight you are on your schedule, but this will, based on what you just said, will resonate with you. This is the son of Hamas. Have you seen his speech? I think he was over in Oxford, was he not? Is that where he was? Somewhere in Europe? Listen to a little bit of this. The son of Hamas, one of the founders of Hamas, who I've played for so many times over the years. This is amazing.
Yusuf, for those who don't know me, but I think most of you know who I am. I am sentenced by my father to death. He made my blood allowed. Why? Because I reported on suicide bombing attacks that targeted civilians indiscriminately. I am not ashamed of saving human lives. You should be ashamed for taking the side of terrorists. Hamas is a terrorist organization in the UK, in the United States, in the European Union. And it's not up to you to decide. How many of you sitting here want to teach me a lesson about morality? If you knew about October 7 attacks, any of you, raise your hands. If you had information about Hamas attack on October 7, would you report it to the authorities? If you do, raise your hand. Less than 5% in this room raise their hands that they will report a massive terrorist attack that targeted civilians indiscriminately, that includes Arabs, Muslim, Jews, Christians, peaceful farming communities on October 7. Ethnically cleansing 20 Jewish communities because of their ethnicity and because of their religion. Now, there come the Palestinians, the most pathetic people on planet Earth, who
is out of order.
Get down.
The speaker is out of order. If the speaker when the chair is making a ruling, the speaker must remain seated. If the speaker repeats this again, I will have to ask them to leave.
They want to delegitimize someone who's born in that land.
A point of order has been raised. It is directed to the chair. A point of order has been raised. I have to hear the point of order. I have to hear the point of order.
Sit down.
Could I hear the point of order from the member? Order.
Sit down.
Order. It is not for you to tell a member to sit down. A point of order is directed to the chair.
Sit down.
Order. If this is repeated again, I will have to ask the speaker to leave. The speaker was out of order.
This house has been hijacked by Muslims.
Could I hear the point of order? Could I hear the point of order? Order. Could I hear the point of order? Please have a seat. The point of order is behind you.
What order?
The speaker made absolutely no reference to anyone in this chamber. He passed an opinion on his own people. Will you please be allowed to continue to debate? given how important his voice is in this conversation.
Order. I've made my ruling very clear.
What is your ruling? I did not insult anyone in the room.
Order.
Speaker, who once invited by this union, was then attempts being made to prevent him from coming here to speak. And now we have seen that committed again. In the course of this speaker speaking, he has a right to freedom of speech, he has a right to speak in this chamber as an invited guest of this union. To order him out as a result of the opinion he has expressed on his own people brings this union into disrepute. It is a moment of shame.
They want to delegitimize my right to exist because I oppose their violent ideology. All the interruptions are not going to help the situation. You'll have to face the reality and the truth the way it is. I was born in that land. It's my birthright. And I was born as an Arab. I was not born as Palestinian, like millions of Arab children. And the Palestinians have been pushing the Palestinian violent indoctrination based on false narrative of apartheid, colonialism, genocide, occupation. While Palestine never existed as a sovereign country, it never existed except as a colonial entity. And the joke on the Palestinians that they actually claim to be indigenous of the land, fighting against colonialism, while they choose a colonial entity as their national identity. How pathetic is that?
Let's stop right there. I'll get back to more in a moment. Robert Spencer of jihadwatch.org. Is that not brilliant? Is he not brilliant?
Oh, yeah, that's terrific.
And can you comment on he said what's so pathetic is they claim Israel is involved in colonialism when it's really the made-up Palestinians that have come there and colonized.
Well, he's 100% right. There was no Arab presence in the Holy Land until the 7th century. And the Jews, of course, go back 2,000-3,000 years. And so the idea that the Arab Palestinians or the indigenous people doesn't hold up historically. They try to claim that they're the Philistines from the Bible or the Canaanites, but there's no historical or archaeological connection between the Arab Palestinians and the Philistines or Canaanites. The Palestinians as a nationality were invented in 1964 by the KGB and Yasser Arafat as a propaganda weapon against Israel. But you go back before that, you do not find mention of the Palestinians. In 1948, the United Nations was going to partition the land that the League of Nations had set aside for a Jewish national home and give half of it to the Arabs and half of it to the Israelis, to the Jews. And there were extensive debates and discussions about this, and not a single mention of Palestinians. The Palestinians simply did not exist. This is why this guy says he's an Arab, he's not a Palestinian. The Palestinians are not distinguishable and not different linguistically, culturally, ethnically, or religiously from the Arabs of Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. And so the whole idea of this nationality was created as an effort to change the narrative. In the 1960s, the world loved Israel because the people tend to love an underdog. And they were one tiny Jewish state faced off against 22 massive Arab states, 56 Muslim states that hated it and wanted to destroy it, and they defeated them. Now, once the Palestinians were created, then you have an even tinier people facing the giant IDF. And they've been able to gain the sympathy of the world through constant propaganda presented by the establishment media as if it were fact. But for all that propaganda, the Palestinian people still do not exist. They are just the Arabs of the region. The Arab countries of the region should take them in, and that would solve all the problems. But they do not do so because they want to keep the Palestinian refugee situation alive as a weapon to destroy Israel with, and they cannot allow for Israel even the size of a postage stamp because Islam does not allow it and teaches that every land that once belonged to the Muslims belongs forever to the Muslims, and thus even if Israel were the size of a garden plot in your backyard, they would still have to destroy it.
Yes. All right. Well said. Look at this headline from Jihad Watch. U.S. blocks Abbas, Palestinian officials from attending UN General Assembly denies visas. This is good news, right?
Yeah, it's nice to have some good news now and again. And the Trump administration has noted that the Palestinian Authority under the president, the 88-year-old President Mahmoud Abbas, who's in the 20th year now of his 4-year term as president, he continues to fund terrorists. He uses the money that is given by the United States, by the European Union, by the United Nations as aid for the Palestinian people, and he pays it to terrorists and to the families of dead jihadis. And this is something that is against American law, to give any American taxpayer money to an entity that funds terrorism. The Biden administration ignored that law and continued to fund Abbas, and Trump has cut it off. And now he has gone farther and he says, you're supporting terrorism, you're not going to get a visa into the United States. So this is all to the good. Now we need to follow through and withdraw any kind of support from the Palestinian Authority itself on the basis of what I was just explaining and what Mossab Hassan Youssef has explained, that there are no Palestinian people. And so there doesn't need to be this entity to create a Palestinian state that would have no historical legitimacy, no ethnic legitimacy, no legitimacy at all. It's just a weapon in the jihad against Israel.
And do you think we're going to ever see the Trump administration declare Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization?
I would like to see that, but I'm not holding my breath.
Why?
It's been on the table for over 10 years. We had Trump in office for 4 years before this. He's been in office for 6 months now. There's talk about it, but there's been talk about it for years. So I'm not going to break open the champagne, Brandon, until there's actually the declaration to this effect. But I tell you, I believe, unfortunately, that the Muslim Brotherhood is so skillfully infiltrated into virtually every level of the U.S. government at this point that they can stop this kind of a move, because they got too many people in high places and too many friends in high places who will say, oh, well, we can't do this. These are our good buddies that we have lunch with. And so it's not going to happen.
So you're saying the infiltration of Muslim Brotherhood is at the top levels of the government, even in a Trump administration?
Sure, that's right. And it's no mark against Trump. The American bureaucracy in Washington is massive. It's thousands of people. And so he talks about draining the swamp, and he's done an admirable job in doing that so far. But we should not kid ourselves. It's not as if he's in there and he said he's going to drain the swamp, therefore the swamp is drained. There are still lots of people in there in the U.S. government who hate him and are working against his program.
Yes.
And
one of his biggest supporters, Laura Loomer, is pointing this out.
There you go. And many of those people are connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, and they will stop the Muslim Brotherhood from being named a terrorist organization.
All right, in their closing minutes, talk to me about Florida and Texas. They seem to be falling. They seem to be falling to Islam.
Yeah.
And I think my state of Tennessee is in the crosshairs next.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt about that, Brandon. I've been in Tennessee many times, and you'd be amazed. Well, I don't know. I don't think you would, but I think that many people would be amazed at how deep the penetration is of Muslim entities in Tennessee. I spoke about, my goodness, almost 20 years ago now, I think 18 years ago, at East Tennessee State University in Johnson City. And we flew into Nashville, had to drive a couple of hours to get to Johnson City. As those who are familiar with the area will know, very sparsely populated area. We drove through areas where it was just forest and there were no towns, no people around. And we get to Johnson City, and I went to speak at East Tennessee State University, and the whole place is filled from the local mosque with Muslims who were ready with hostile questions to try to trip me up. And people don't realize that Muslims are in these rural areas, but they are in Tennessee and Texas and in Florida and elsewhere, because they want to turn the American heartland. So because they know that that's where most of the resistance will come to the implementation of Sharia And so if they can get as much of a foothold as they can now while nobody's paying attention in the American heartland, in the so-called red states and so on, then they can prevent there from being any backlash from those areas when they try seriously to try to gain power in the United States.
All right. What else? What else? So trying to get some positive here. How should people respond?
Well, we have to be aware, and there have been admirable efforts, particularly in Texas regarding Epic City, the attempt to create a Sharia enclave there in the East Plano area, that the people have to be aware of what's going on, to start to pay attention to the planting of mosques in your area, to the connections of the Muslim Brotherhood to the organizations running the mosques, to the connections to the Muslim Brotherhood of the people who are involved in operating these mosques, and to call attention of the local media to these things, to do everything that we can to shine a light on these organizations and these developments so that we can stop them. And the Muslim groups have done a terrific job in getting the establishment media to agree that it's all racism and Islamophobia and bigotry to oppose the buildings of mosques. And we have to just try to confront that head on and keep on raising the evidence in regard to Islam's supremacist, violent, and political nature, and explain to the American people what it will mean to be under Sharia in the United States, and that this is not crazy. This could happen.
Are you allowed to go to Europe? Are you allowed to go and speak in Europe?
Depends on the country. Yeah, I'm barred from Britain, but as far as I know, I can go to Europe, any other place, but the invitations are not exactly rolling in.
And would you be at risk of arrest or fine if you spoke like you have today?
Oh, I think certainly, yeah. If I were to go to Paris or Berlin at this point, I mean, I've spoken in Berlin before, but that was 15 years ago. I think that now it would be very difficult, and that there have been native French and German people who have been arrested for saying these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. And so how long do you think we have in the U.S. to tamp this down?
Oh, well, there's really no telling, because these kinds of things can happen very quickly, Brandon. You know, you look at Britain, and it's been quiet, and now suddenly, I mean, it's been quiet, but we've been calling attention to what's been going on there. And now suddenly there's a big debate, and people are really talking about how the government is not dealing with these issues. And there could be serious strife in Britain in the near future. And I suspect that the same kind of thing will happen here. It'll go on for another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, with the Muslims quietly growing and increasing their representation, increasing their presence in political power. And then some people will say, hey, wait a minute, look at all this. This is not how America is supposed to be constituted. And then it might be, the problem, unfortunately, will be much more advanced than it is now, and much more difficult to deal with. And so, yeah, I'd say we have another 20, 30 years before it becomes acute the way it is in Britain now, and in other areas and in areas of continental Europe. But it is coming. As I said before, it's not as if they have a different version of Islam here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at this, folks. Jihadwatch.org, because as he said, this is a propaganda war. And he puts it out every day to help you understand what's going on and the propaganda and how to refute it. Jihadwatch.org. Jihadwatch.org. Any other big story that you're paying attention to that we should have you tell us about? Of course, the Minneapolis shooting, I think that was the red-green axis. Islam, Marxism, kind of merging together. You want to comment on that? Anything else?
On his gun stock, the guy had written all these things, and one of the things he had written was mashallah, which is sort of like Allah wills it. And Atta, which seems to have been a reference to Muhammad Atta, the 9/11 hijacker. And so it's interesting to note that with his hatred of Jesus, with his hatred of Christians, and his hatred of Jews, he also loves Islam. And it's interesting how those things go together so often.
And yet Islam would not be friendly to an LGBT guy. This is how dumb they are.
Well, yeah, but you've got an entire organization that actually calls itself Queers for Palestine that is a bunch of homosexuals who think that they're going to make friends with these jihadis and not realize they're going to be thrown off the roof if they go over there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, this is what we're facing, so we got to educate, educate, educate. And folks, people are waking up. I had a guy in my community recently say to me, young guy with 3 small children, Brandon, he whispered quietly, "Are you concerned? There seems to be a lot of Muslims, a lot of women wearing the hijab. They're moving into our community. What's going on? This really concerns me." And I'm like, great, I'm glad you're concerned, but isn't it interesting that even here in the Bible Belt, where we don't have enough Bible under our belt, that the gentleman is concerned, but feels like, are you concerned? Like he's got to be kind of quiet about this, right?
How skillful the propaganda's been. People know, oh, it's Islamophobic to talk about this, so we better not say anything about it at all, or if we do, we'll do it in hushed tones and hope nobody overhears.
Yep. We better wake up, or we're going to be Great Britain in the next less than 10 years, would you say?
It could happen.
Yeah, these things, like you said, have a way of moving and moving fast. And then finally, are you anticipating any kind of major terrorist attack in the U.S. by Al-Qaeda, as Sarah Adams and others are warning?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. It's just a matter of when they're able to pull it off. And there were indications in the past that there were sleeper cells here who were just biding their time. And I don't know what they're waiting for. We don't know when they're going to strike. But I don't think here again that we should think that we're exempt. You want to see what the future of the United States is. Look at Europe. Look also at India. And India has a significant Muslim population, and they suffer periodic jihad terror attacks. The Hindu population, although it's much larger than the Muslim population, is subjected to frequent acts of violence. And this is what we're looking at for the future of the United States.
Folks, be aware, be alert, talk to your citizens, your pastor, your city council members, your sheriffs, your police chiefs, your neighbors. Community is going to be so important, folks, and your neighbors being on the same page with you versus them trying to get their head around what just happened. They need to already know. I know what this is, and I know how to respond, protect my community.
Exactly.
Robert Spencer, jihadwatch.org, jihadwatch.org. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this break. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, "I have not ever seen anything like it." The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gaditana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.